Wednesday. We got a fun episode today. I can't wait. Let's plug into the soundboard. For those of you new, we do these Money in the Morning recordings. Hey, Kimberly. We do these Money in the Morning recordings live in front of a Facebook audience, which makes it excruciating. Today, I have the Epcot Flower and Garden mug from 2015. So that's today's mug of the day. Mug of the day brought to you by Okay, that's weird. Somebody calling me. All right, let's it's funny because we do not disturb, and yet Skype must have its own do not disturb. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Actually, I'm just going to kill it. All right, there we go. All right. Hey, Susan. Test our levels. That sounds good. That sounds good. All right. We'll get our two headlines ready. And who gave these to me? Scott and Tony. All right. Daryl's here. Hey, Daryl. If you've got stuff, Elvia's here. If you've got stuff in the comments, we will put them on the screen, and we'll have some fun talking about these headlines. All right. Here we go. This is tomorrow's show. I wanted to do two today. We might do one this afternoon. We might do a second one this afternoon. I hope we can. Here we go. They say that life is about decisions, and it's funny. I look back on my life and I think about some decisions that at the time seemed like phenomenal ideas. And I'll go back and I think, well, why did I do that? I remember the time when a experienced financial planner told me that he was going to show me the ropes and he was going to give me, quote, the recipe on how to do things. Number one financial planner, by the way, at American Express Financial Advisors at the time, no longer a company, now they're called Ameriprise. And I told him that half the fun, I told him very confidently that half the fun in life is learning how it works. And yet, if I'd actually done that, put my tail between my legs and not been such an idiot and would have taken him up on that advice, I would have learned all this stuff in a fraction of the time and then could have pushed on further. Today's show is all about decisions, good decisions, bad decisions. But either way, these are both great headlines. Welcome to another episode of Money in the Morning. Live from my mom's half-finished basement. It's not all board games and fun down here. It is time for Money in the Morning, the show where we have two headlines ripped from the press. Today's being no exception. Some doozy headlines today, kids. We're going to talk about decision-making and some people making some decisions that might have been questionable in both of our headlines, and some statistics that might lead people to questionable decisions. We're going to talk about that in Money in the Morning. And also, we're going to take those two headlines and put them together into one big idea to take you home with today. Money in the Morning is brought to you by Tiller. You know, if you're somebody who's a spreadsheet nerd like mom, or you're like me, you want to press the easy button on your budgeting and tracking, Tiller's the way to go. Everything from pre-arranged templates to do-it-yourself spreadsheeting, Tiller allows you to input all of that financial data directly and safely into your spreadsheet, and you manipulate it however you want. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller for more. Thanks to Tiller for helping us make money in the morning. All right, you've got places to go, and we've got some important headlines, so let's get this party started, shall we?
And now, your first Money in the Morning headline.
Both of our headlines today, by the way, are courtesy of our friends in The Basement. The Basement's our closed Facebook group. If you want to join us and chat about some of these headlines, these are doozies that we talk about in The Basement today. This one comes to us from Scott. But anyway, if you want to be a part of that, head to stackingbenjamins.com/basement to get the URL to get there. That'll take you right to Facebook and right to our closed Facebook community. We've got over 1,700 people partying in Mom's basement there, which she doesn't mind because we're a nice crowd of people, right? Doesn't matter how many people you have as long as you're all nice and you get along well. And we do a great job there of getting along. Some hilarity, some very funny posts, and at the same time, some doozy headlines like this one. And our friend Scott brought us this one. This comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. Mike Meru has $1 million in student loans. I'm going to say that again. $1 million in student loans. How did that happen? This piece is written by Josh Mitchell from Draper, Utah. Mike Meru, a 37-year-old orthodontist, made a big investment in his education. As of Thursday of last week, he owed $1,060,945.42 in student loans. Mr. Meru pays only $1,589.97 a month, not enough to cover the interest. So his debt from 7 years at the University of Southern California grows by $130 a day. In 2 decades, his loan balance is going to be $2 million. He and his wife, Melissa, has become numb to the burden, focused instead on raising their 2 daughters. Quote, if you thought about it every single day, Mrs. Meru said, you'd have a mental breakdown. Due to escalating tuition and easy credit, the U.S. has 101 people who owe at least $1 million in federal student loans, according to the Education Department. 5 years ago, 14 people owed that much. More could join that group, while the typical student borrower owes $17,000. The number of those who owe at least $100,000 has risen to about 2.5 million people, nearly 6% of the borrowing pool, Education Department data shows. For graduate school students especially, there's little incentive for universities to help put the brakes on big borrowing. The government essentially allows grad students to borrow any amount to cover tuition and living costs, with few guardrails on how the final sum will be repaid. More than a third of borrowers from one of the government's main graduate school lending programs have enrolled in some form of federal loan forgiveness plan. Quote, these are choices. We're not coercing, says Avishai Sadan, dean of USC's Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry, where Mr. Morrow went to school and one of the most expensive in the U.S. Quote, you know exactly what you're getting into. Piece goes on. Even the best planners might not have anticipated the sharp increases in tuition and student loan interest rates from 2005 to 2012, Mr. Meru's tenure as a student. While the Federal Reserve was reducing interest rates to near zero to combat the recession, rates for grad students were as high as 8.5%. Dental school is the costliest higher education program in the U.S. Private nonprofit schools during the 2015-16 school year charge an average of $71,820 a year, the Urban Institute found. The program now costs $91,000 a year and $137,000 when living expenses are included. And let's go into his thought process, which is what we're all wondering, right? We're all wondering what he's thinking. For Mr. Meru, tuition at USC first went up during his second year. Interest rates followed. Halfway through dental school, he said he started to worry about the soaring cost of his education. I'm sitting here saying, holy crap, should I really be doing this? Mr. Meru recalled. Should I drop out? Mrs. Meru, 35, said she and her husband decided it was too late to turn back. If he quit or transferred to a cheaper school, he still owed for the loans he'd already taken. Mr. Meru's financial records provided by the Wall Street Journal shows he borrowed $601,506, a debt that swelled to more than $1 million by fees and interest. He borrowed $600,000. He's had $400,000 in fees and interest since then. The USC education helped Mr. Merrow earn $225,000 last year working for a corporate practice in Draper, Utah, 20 minutes from Salt Lake City. That compares with $158,000 median income for dentists. Mr. Merrow became so frustrated with the high interest rates that he helped start a national dental student movement to lobby Congress to lower rates on grad students. The effort went nowhere. And so he goes through a little bit here. I still want to get to his thinking on taking these, which, sorry, this is a great part about live radio, isn't it? I'm scrolling down. Mr. Merrow said the dental school's financial aid director estimated the 4-year program would require $400,000 to $450,000 student debt, including interest. Mr. Astiavio, who's the financial aid director, said he didn't recall the conversation, but had no reason to doubt its accuracy. Mr. Merrow and his wife concluded dental school was a good investment, given the salary he expected to earn. We're like, okay, we can make this work, Mrs. Merrow said. There are certain things that are okay to go into debt for: a house, an education, a car. I'll link to this on my Average Joe Money Twitter profile, but I find this incredibly interesting. First of all, $400,000 to pay for your income stream. When you first look at this, you think this might be a better investment than you first think, don't you? So let's go through his thinking. He's making $225,000 a year. Not bad money. Not bad money. You kidding me? Great money. So he's making great money as a dentist. He knows that the median dental income is $150,000. He's told ahead of time that these student loans, he's going to probably have to borrow $400 to $450, and he borrowed $401. So he's right in there. The student loan office didn't lie to him. And he knows what his income's probably going to be. And he looks at that ratio and he thinks, okay, that's going to be fine. But over the years, because of the fact that he's had fees and interest, he now is, excuse me, what am I talking about? He's at $400,000 in interest. He ended up borrowing $600,000. He was told $400,000. Walk that back. Once again, kids, live TV here. $600,000. He thinks it's $400,000. It ends up being $600 that he pays, right? So 50% more money than he thought. When he got about halfway done, which ostensibly then we would think is $300,000, he starts thinking, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe I was led astray. I don't know if he was led astray or not, but I do know that he gets halfway through and he thinks about pulling the plug. But then he thinks, well, I'm halfway through. I should probably just finish up because I'm going to owe this money anyway. Transferring, maybe still an option, but decided not to do that. Like his decision-making process doesn't seem to be all that out of whack. And yet the decision to finish up, the decision to actually finish that program, and then to pay an amount of money that doesn't even cover the monthly cost of the loan, ends up being this hole that he's never going to get out of. He's never going to get out of it. The debt, even after his payment, is still, it's a car payment. He's never going to get to drive the car. Well, hell, it's a hell of a lot more than a car payment, right? He's making these huge payments and he's getting nowhere with this money. He's going to have this debt his entire life unless he pays more money. So strategy wise, I still have to question this risk reward ratio. I have to also question that decision halfway through to not stop, to say, you know what, this is costing me a lot more money than I thought that it was. I need another plan. Like, I understand that he's halfway through and I get the feeling of, we might as well finish up. But I also think if you're already digging a hole, continuing to dig that hole isn't the solution. Like, there's no easy solution when you're already $300,000 in the hole, but this solution, digging, is not the solution, right? And as Clay says here in our Facebook chat, and I'll get to our friends watching us live on Facebook as we record this, like, what's the strategy? Clay says, what's the strategy going forward? I don't know what his strategy is right now. And this piece, by the way, doesn't even say what his strategy is going to be from here on out. But even at that point, I think to myself, what's my strategy? What's my strategy now that I'm $300,000 in the hole and I realize it's probably going to cost $600,000? At that point, I don't know what the strategy is, Clay, but I do know that this isn't it. And so I think our first lesson, man, this is a hard one. You have to think ROI. And clearly in this case, at the beginning, he was thinking ROI. I'm going to make $150,000. I'm going to probably have $400,000 in debt. Okay. I think I can do that math. I think I can make that work. Right. I got to think about the payments. I got to think about the interest rate. I got to think about the strategy. And then at that halfway point, when things aren't going the way I want, I have to have the ability to regroup and decide, you know what, I got to pull the plug. And he didn't do that. Now he's in over $1 million over his head. But any decision around debt, whenever you're taking out debt, ROI is so big. Return on investment is so big. And I'm not saying that with any just education. Like we see people go into majors where they're not going to earn a lot of money. That's fine if you're not going into debt. But when you start going into debt for college and it's stuff you're going to have to pay for later and you don't have the ability to make that money, it becomes very, very difficult. Incredibly difficult lesson for him and for all of us. All right, let's say hi to all of our friends here. We've got Kimberly here with us today. We've got Susan here. Daryl's here. Elvie is here. Daryl says his not so awesome decision was stealing from his 401k to purchase a house. You know, it's funny. I see a lot of people, and Daryl, I don't know if you're somebody that thought about this ahead of time, but a lot of people see these 401k balances that are pretty small. Let's say that maybe you had 20,000 in your 401k or 30,000 in your 401k, and you decided, you know, it's not that much money. I'm going to just start over. And what you don't realize is, and I was having this discussion with my daughter, because she saved a lot of money in her first year of work. She saved over $11,000 into her 401k plan in her first year of work. And she's incredibly proud of that. And she looks at people around her, by the way, who aren't saving anywhere near that. So at 23 years old, at $11,000, I told her we do this magic trick. And she could. The reason we're doing this magic trick is maybe at some time she decides to change jobs. Maybe she leaves and she sees this $11,000 sitting there and she decides, well, I'm going to change and do something else. But it's not $11,000 she has. At 23 years old, let's say she gets, I'm going to get crazier. I'm going to say a 10% rate of return because she is so long. And I know that it could be 8, could be 7%, but let's just get crazy and say she's aggressive. Things go really well. She gets 10, which is what we've had in the past. And our second headline is going to show you we may not get in the future, but we get 10. There's this rule called the rule of 72. And if you take the rule of 72 and you divide the amount of money that you think you're going to get into 72, it tells you how long it's going to take that money to double. So 7.2 years is what it takes. I'm going to get rid of the 0.2 just so I can do this on my fingers, because doing 7.2 years is going to be difficult. But let's get crazy and say 7. And then I know I just notched up the interest rate again, kids. I know that, but just for example purposes, 7 years, her money doubles. So she's 23. That 11,000 doubles when she's 30. When she's 37, add 7 more. When she's 44. When she's 51. When she's 58. So by the time she's 59 and a half, it's doubled over 5 times. So I was telling my daughter, you haven't saved $11,000 for retirement. You already have pre-saved, and we'll just do the doubling 5 times. You saved not 11, but 22, 44 for the second double, 88 for the third, 176, right? $352,000. $352,000 you've already saved that you don't have to work on for retirement. Now, I know inflation's going to go up, but that's crazy money. And so to Daryl's point, taking that money out early, that's some of the ROI you want to do when you decide to take money out for other purposes. If you rob from the 401k, Daryl says, if we're talking about making bad money decisions, we're going to need a longer show. Yes. Our friend Deanna's here. Deanna says, if he's a dentist, why on earth is his payment only $1,000? Income, based on the amount that he originally took out, the way the particular loans are that he took out, his payment is that $1,000. He should be paying more. He's never going to pay it off if he doesn't pay more. Our friend Sandy from Yes, I Am Cheap, great blog, is here. Sandy says, this is why I didn't go to medical school. I had a college internship at University of Virginia Medical School while in college. Wow. And while I was speaking to the medical residents about their debt, I said, no, what? You see so many people with so much debt. And when you get to those professional degrees, Sandy, I agree that ROI comparison becomes just huge. And I think if you got to finance it all on debt, it's going to be so difficult, as we're seeing in this strategy. Sandy also says, I was so far into my pre-med program, I would have been in school longer. So I decided to finish my biology degree, but not go to medical school because the math didn't make sense. There it is. Deanna writes, apparently his strategy is to make the minimum payment get further and further in debt. And right now that appears that is the strategy. Daryl replies, is that like when you're on a diet and you eat poorly one day, so you just kill it that day and end with a gym dandy for friendlies? Yes, it's exactly it. Bust your butt and then just break the diet. That's crazy. All right. Thanks to everybody on Facebook for hanging out and commenting on this piece. I got another one though for you to comment. Let's move to our second piece, which come to us from CNN Money. And this one was suggested by our friend Tony in the Facebook group. This written by Tammy Lubby. Millennials born in 1980s. Is that you? May never recover from the Great Recession. Man, you read that clickbait, you immediately want to know what this is about. Some millennials may never get over the Great Recession. The net worth of a typical family headed by someone born in the 1980s was 34% below what was expected, according to a new Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis study titled A Lost Generation. What's worse, the typical 1980s family lost ground between 2010 and 2016 after the recession ended. These folks who were in their late 20s and early to mid 30s in 2016 were the only age group to do so out of the 6 cohorts studied. Quote, this represents the missed opportunity because asset appreciation is unlikely to be as rapid in the near future as it was during the recent period, said the report, which was based on the Federal Reserve's 2016 survey of consumer finances. Those born in the 1980s were not the only group to fare worse than expected. Americans born in the 1960s and the 1970s accumulated 11 to 18% less wealth respectively in 2016 than predicted. This is worrying, but those cohorts who are now generally in their 40s and 50s had narrowed the gaps considerably since 2010. Meanwhile, older generations were worth somewhat more than expected, with those born in the 1930s doing the best at 17% above the predicted value. The Great Recession and its aftermath significantly widened the wealth gap between the old and young, the study said. The lower wealth levels were not due to shortfalls in income. In fact, those born after 1960 are earning roughly what was expected. Instead, the problems more likely result of debt and home ownership. Families headed by someone born in the 1960s and 70s were more likely to own homes than expected prior to the Great Recession. But their home ownership rates fell significantly below predicted levels by 2016. Still, as the housing market recovered in recent years, those that did own property were able to recover some of their wealth. The 1980s kids, however, were generally too young to own homes prior to the Great Recession. Even by 2016, fewer than 45% had bought homes below what was expected, but they are still heavily in debt, which increases their financial frugality. And the piece goes on from there, and I'll link to that when it comes to our in our Twitter feed at Average Joe Money. Let's talk about this one. Once again, we're back on the decision train, aren't we? So people born in the 1980s, 70s, and 60s below what's projected of them net worth wise. But when it comes to people in the 1980s, they are, according to this piece, more screwed than other people, right? And it's funny because it's, well, not funny might not be the right word, but it's decision-making again, isn't it? It's decision-making for people born in the 60s and 70s around home ownership, more people owning homes than before. And for people born in the 1980s, it's getting into debt, buying things that we can't afford. And yet you see this exciting thing happening right now. And I think it's a result of all of this overspending that we're seeing this happen. This great FIRE movement, right? Where people, and I think the FIRE movement is just a little piece of it. I think it's actually this big financial evolution where people are waking up to the fact that, you know what? I can't let consumerism drive my decisions. I can't let some store tell me to buy something today and then I'll figure out how to pay for it later. Instead, I'm on this train, whether I got there early or I'm getting there because I touched the stove too many times. I'm on this train now of I'm going to accumulate wealth now and buy whatever the hell I want later. And I'm going to pay cash for it. And there's this big financial evolution and we're seeing it, right? I mean, we're seeing it in Silicon Valley, more money pouring into fintech and specifically insurance tech, where customers are just getting ripped off. Customers getting ripped off by their banks, customers getting ripped off by insurance companies. And you see this And you'll see innovative companies eating their lunch. I mean, our sponsor on Stacking Benjamins, Haven Life, you look at the work they're doing to make the process easy. You look at all of these companies disrupting annuities. It's so exciting to watch money go in to these places, Silicon Valley, angel investors getting excited. And that's because there's a financial revolution. A bunch of people saying no more, right? Goldman Sachs even now as a response. You look at Goldman Sachs historically, really not interested in the Main Street investor, the Main Street saver. And yet, what do I hear people talk about all the time? The Marcus savings account. Because Goldman Sachs finally goes, oh, you know what? I think we got to give these people better because somebody out there is going to eat our lunch. Goldman Sachs, even to their credit, bought Clarity Money, the popular app. They see this wave coming. There is this wave. So I think our takeaway, we don't spend as much time on this as we did on the first piece, but I think that the big idea here is the hill is the hill is the hill. We know what we have to do. I wouldn't read this piece and get all discouraged and go, well, you know what? I'm throwing in the towel. Can't do that. I think what you do here is you say, you know what? I've got this hill to climb. It's my responsibility. And it's funny. And I'm not going to get his name. Oh, and he was a wonderful guest. We had a great guest on, maybe somebody in our Facebook group will get it on recently, talking about how life is not fair in America. We all have some opportunities, but also it isn't built the same for everybody, right? But I love what he said. He said, that's not an excuse. You know the statistic, and then you go and you grab on and you do what you have to do. You know what the hill is all about. The hill is the hill is the hill. So you can read this and go, yeah, okay, we're probably more screwed than other people, but I can't let that affect my life. I still got to go ahead and I got to do what I've got to get done, because until I take control, what else matters, right? It's all I got is my ability to take control, to captain my ship, as we talked about yesterday on the show. All right. We're talking about what a Jim Dandy is. A lot of people not know what a Jim Dandy at Friendly's is. And Daryl explains to us, it's the Friendly's version of a huge banana split. So there you go, Deanna. If Deanna wants the Jim Dandy, just head to a Friendly's restaurant. Friendly's, if you want to sponsor the show, joe@stackingbenjamins.com. Happy to talk to you about show sponsorship. And Daryl, I'll split some of it with you because you brought it up. So there you go. We have a big idea coming. A big idea. And Kimberly says she was hoping a Jim Dandy was an adult drink. It sounds like it should be an adult drink. Maybe you take your own adult drink and you pour it into the banana split. And then you get maybe a little Bailey's with that, huh, Kimberly? I don't know. Not that we encourage drinking here at Money in the Morning. We, especially in the morning, we just straight coffee. That's it. That's my drug of choice is caffeine this morning. Let's talk one more time about Tiller before we get to our big idea. Every day on the show here, we take these two headlines, which don't seem to have a lot to do with each other, and put them together into one big idea for you to take home. But before that, let's talk about Tiller briefly, because Tiller can do one of two things for you. If you love your spreadsheets and you just want more on the spreadsheet front, head to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller, because you can work with your spreadsheet instead of that app where you press the easy button. I historically have liked the app until I found Tiller. But instead of the app, which kind of puts you in a little box and makes you play by their rules, with a spreadsheet, do whatever you want. And what's cool is Tiller presses the easy button for you, because you can take all your financial data and have it automatically download into your spreadsheet whenever you want. Meaning you get the power and the versatility of spreadsheets, while at the same time, you don't have to go look up all your financial account information, your budget information, your tracking information. That all is right there. You can set up all kinds of alerts. You can set up all kinds of systematic rules, the same stuff you get in any spreadsheet. Now, if I'm talking to you and that all sounds like something you don't want to do, which frankly is me, Tiller's still great for you, because guess what they do for you and me? They give us a bunch of templates that we can use already laid out. I could even make those templates simpler because it's a spreadsheet. I don't use a line ever. Take it out of your spreadsheet. stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller. Tiller gives us a little thank you. So if you want to check out Tiller and you want to support the show, use our link, stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller. All right, let's go on the attack. How about that? We're going to bring these two headlines together. The first headline was harrowing. Dude borrows $1 million to finance his dental education. There's 101 people in America who've borrowed over $1 million to finance their education. That's a lot of people. The lesson there is that you have to think about ROI, decisions involving your debt. And then our second headline, millennials born in the 80s, according to a recent study, might be screwed. And our takeaway was the hill's the hill. If you're climbing the hill, just know what it is. Know what it is. It's fine to know what it is, but you still got to get up it, right? If you're going to make your life an epic, exciting adventure, the hill is the hill. Just go do it. Which brings us to our big takeaway for today, which is this. We talked in the first piece about leveraging your money. We talked in the second piece about leveraging your ability to know what's going on. And I think this idea of leverage is our big takeaway today. Leverage is your best friend and your worst enemy, depending on how you use it. Whatever you apply leverage to a situation, you can make it a heck of a lot easier for yourself, but you got to know the return on investment. And certainly when it comes to debt, using somebody else's money to leverage can be hugely dangerous, and you can end up spinning out of control, such as the first piece today. But leveraging your time to decide which actions get you up that hill quicker, I think becomes really important when you know the hill's going to be pretty darn difficult to get up. And I see so many people spinning their wheels, making little $5 decisions instead of focusing on the big decision, clipping coupons instead of asking for a raise at work. It's a big one. Spending your time watching Wheel of Fortune instead of that side hustle, especially if it's something you're passionate about and you think it can make you a few bucks. Why not spend your time having fun and being in the middle of it instead of watching somebody else spin the wheel for dollars? You could spin your own wheel for dollars. Leverage. Leverage is a big takeaway. We have a second big takeaway that Daryl tells us about. He says he thought eating more ice cream is going to be a takeaway. And by the way, Daryl, eating more ice cream is always the number one takeaway, but that's on every show. That's a given. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody on Facebook. That was very loud. See? Live TV. Thanks for hanging out, everybody on Facebook. Thanks for hanging out at home, wherever you are. Go stack some Benjamins. We'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Selmans has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.
Okay, I have no idea why that decided to get so loud. I had that barely playing, and our soundboard just decided to go super duper loud. That's so funny. All right, that was fun, and I love the fact that Scott brought this piece to us, because that's so ugly. $1 million in student loan debt. Oh my goodness. No idea how I'd handle that. Sandy, I love your decision-making process as usual. Just holy cow. You just can't do it. And I like the fact, and I should have gone into this if I were a bear with more brain, about how you saw that ahead of time, right? You talked to people ahead of time that were already halfway there. Like, that's a huge, huge win for you. Like going, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So being able to have those conversations ahead of time before you get into the debt, I think that's a big win also. But the biggest win is probably ice cream. I think that might be it. I'm going to try to do another one this afternoon. Not sure that we're going to get to it. I hope so. I got an exciting meeting coming up in 10 minutes that I can't talk about. I can tell you I'm having it. But in a few days, we'll be announcing that. Also, just pulled the plug on our Detroit venue. They just weren't getting back to us. So I actually have upgraded the venue. We're now talking to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, which is in a nice area, a little suburb called Royal Oak in Detroit. So if you're in Detroit and you're watching that, we're talking to them, to the Comedy Castle. So I'm hoping we'll be able to do our Detroit show there. That's what's going on here in the basement. That, and if we owed you a t-shirt code, which we've owed some of you t-shirt codes for quite a while, those are, check your email. because we finally got the rats out of that process. And our intern Caden is taking care of that. So thanks to Caden, you're getting your t-shirt code. All right, guys. Hopefully we'll see you later this afternoon, but at the very least tomorrow morning.